Okay, perfect. Recording has started. So good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining the Service Fabric Community Q&A number 60. Sakanya, Mike, and team are all here. Thank you all for joining us. Quick reminder that the session will be recorded and we will share the recording after the call on the ACP webcast calendar as well as the YouTube channel. We will be monitoring the chat. If you have any questions, feel free to ask them in the chat. However, this is an interactive session, so feel free to come off mute if you have any questions. With that said, I'll hand it back over to Mike and Sakanya.
Thank you, Miguela. So we're going to start off with Mike doing a quick update on the SFMC release, and then we can open it up for Q&A. Mike?
Hello, everybody. So I'm just going to take a couple of minutes and recap our November release update and touch on, just highlight a couple of the documents that are new and a couple of the changes we pushed in there, just to make sure it's very obvious. So if you have any questions, please drop them in chat or hold on to a little bit, my little quick spiel here, and then we'll get into that. So for Service Fabric Managed Clusters, I'm dropping the release notes, the blog entry into chat. If you haven't seen it, I really advise reading this real quick. It's not that long, and I'll go ahead and flash it up on the screen here. Actually, I can't share. Can someone make me a presenter? That one. I don't know why I'm not a presenter. Miguel or Scania writes. Otherwise, this is going to be hard to share.
Sorry, do you want me to share something, Mike?
I can't share.
Yeah, no issues. Should I just share that
Sure.
log?
Yeah. Yes.
Let me do that. Hold on.
I could rejoin. I don't know. I don't have rights. Sorry for technical difficulty here. Oh, there we go. Now I can present. Okay, someone did something. So let me go and present this up.
Okay.
I can make this a little bit bigger here. I can see now. So this is the blog entry. So real quickly, so we have now officially launched autoscaling. This was technically part of the July 1st preview API, just to be clear, but it is now officially available. We had some delays with some bugs, but it is now widely available. And we've had some customers already starting trying to use it and give us some questions. This documentation is created in public. Talks about how to implement it and use it. I highly suggest if you do want to explore it, please read it thoroughly. People get stuck, especially in the weeds around the time windows, and especially the CPU-based metric scaling, what average really means. And I'll just say a recap, if you use CPU-based scaling, average is an average across the entire set of VMs. So if you have one hot VM, it doesn't necessarily mean that you will get auto scale to trigger if your thresholds are too high. And we constantly see that kind of inquiry. But it is out there. What is super cool about auto scaling on SFMC versus Classic is we are seeing head and shoulders of improvements with regards to speed. I'm trying to provide some simple math, and I'll try to put some simple math up in the documentation to really clarify this. But you could see anywhere from, on average, about 8 minutes per node being added with SFMC. With a Classic, that range and time would be about 15 to 45 minutes. So you get dramatic speed improvements and reliability, because that 8-minute window in SFMC is very reliable, node over node over node, or if it's 5 nodes or 10 nodes at a time, doesn't necessarily matter so much. So I just want to highlight that. The other thing, so bring your load balancer, internal LB. So this one, it gets a little nuanced, but now before we had, in the previous API, we launched bring your load balancer, which allowed you to technically do internal load balancer, but we also required you to bring an external load balancer. Now, you only have to configure and bring an internal load balancer. It's highlighted in our documents here under the same existing area, bring a load balancer, but I've added a third example scenario to clarify what that really means. So you still bring your own load balancers, assume these are internal load balancers, right? But now you can pass external traffic through the built-in default load balancer, as we call it. So Service Fabric Managed Clusters creates this automatically, and you can leverage that with these node types. And that's done by doing a simple, I'll scroll here real quick. I don't want to show you too much documentation, but I added a section here called OR. and you do this little config snippet. That's all you specify, and it just works. So it's really, really simple. Let me go here. So another one, aka.ms, I don't want to get into too much, but we've had a couple of cases where customers have been asking for a private link service and something called Bastion hosts. And we do now natively support enabling both those scenarios. Again, very simple to do. I don't want to flip over more documentation right now, but it is there and available. What's really exciting, I think, about Bastion hosts in particular is you could fully disable RDP in your cluster, completely block that front door, if you will, and use Bastion host as that entry. Bastion host uses a secure RDP back channel, and you can lock down entry to the Bastion host front door. Accelerated networking, this one's fairly straightforward, but we do support accelerated networking now, which was a gap from us for our SFMC versus Classic. You can now do that with the where it's supported. And we also support host level encryption. So this is a newer encryption method. It does require a feature flag to being able to roll this into this capability into your cluster nodes. But we do recommend it. And I do talk about that, and I've enhanced this documentation now. So we support 2 encryption methods now, to be clear. One is ADE, Azure Disk Encryption, and this newer one is encryption at host. What I think is really cool about this, I mentioned this in the blog, is this method, this newer method, encrypts at the host literally. So you no longer burn any CPU time doing VM level encryption with this method. So you can therefore hopefully get a little bit more out of your VM SKU. And then 2 real quick things. So we do now support multiple managed disks. This has been asked by a lot of people. So you can configure up to A to Z, with the exception of using the C letter and D letter. So, 23-ish disks you could configure if you really wanted to go crazy. And then we allow you to specify the driver letter per configured disk. And then this last one, which is another common thing, was, can I configure my primary data disk letter? We have a default as called out in the documentation, but now we allow you to override that and retrieve that programmatically if you dare need that capability. So I'll pull up this. So all these have links to documentation, as you can tell, and then it's right here, nice and clean. So yeah, with that, I'll just flash this up because this is recorded. So in summary, I'm not going to bleed this drain the slide here, but our feature list is getting pretty long. And I'm not going to read all these, like I said, but this is SFMC, currently available feature list. And I'll just throw this out there because I want to keep this brief. Please keep hitting me up with feedback. I believe Whit's here. He's been great for providing some feedback and ideas. Feel free to hit me up either on GitHub here, or I can drop my email in chat, and feel free to hit me up directly. So that's it in a nutshell. There's a shorter meeting today, so I will stop there. But any questions, please let me know.
Just to confirm, we don't have to do anything special to make that disk available. At least in unmanaged, we always had to run some kind of formatting PowerShell script. You
do not have to do anything special. We handle all the magic under the covers for you, which is
great. Great.
So hopefully that's exactly what you need.
Yes.
And I'll just be clear, whether that's encrypted or not, we handle it all. Yeah.
Thank you, Mike. So we're going to open it up for questions. Both Mike and I here. Mike and I am here. We can try and answer the questions. Just feel free to unmute and ask the questions.
Well, I shared my wall of them, but I guess I'll jump in there real fast since it's a short call. There's a DevOps task that exists out there for publishing Service Fabric apps to the cluster. Package them, deploy them, all that sort of jazz. But I guess you can't use managed identities with that approach. They have to be deployed via ARM templates. Is there a similar task to do the same thing, package it up, drop in a storage blob for an ARM deployment?
I can take that one. I don't think Mike, do you want to take that one, or should I go ahead?
Go ahead. I'm not aware.
Yeah, so I don't think ARM templates have been enabled for it yet. I think we still need to go back and look at that, but no, I don't think there's an ARM template approach for that.
Okay. I mean, even if there's just like someone just writes something up and drops in a GitHub thing, we just copy and paste it. Just a starting point would be useful.
Sure. I think that's good input, and we'll take an action item for that.
Cool. And then roadmap support for VS 2022 now. .NET 6 does not seem to be supported with the ASP.NET Core templates. Is that
Yes.
imminent?
Yeah, that's still work in progress. That will probably not ship before April 2022, because that's probably when we can get a release out to Visual Studio. But yeah, that's definitely work in progress. We don't know the exact timelines yet, but right now, if I had to ballpark, it's somewhere first quarter or post first quarter of 2022.
So if I use .NET 6, are there any known breaking changes with it apart from just not being able to generate the templates for it?
The one that you brought up the couple of rounds ago, which is ASP.NET, now has doesn't use dependency on a 1.0 version, but rather the updated version is, I think, if I remember, either 2.1 or 3.1. I have to go back and look at my notes, but yeah, one of the two.
Okay.
Yes, that's the
I
main
guess
big change.
will there be any sort of as part of that April thing, if you're shifting around to handle that anyway, will that include any of the iGeneric host stuff?
The iHost,
Especially,
yes.
yeah, especially since that's increasingly, proving difficult to kind of keep up to date with the latest changes in ASP.NET Core and reconcile with that.
Yeah, that's essentially one of the work items that we're going to target for .NET 6.0, and that's currently in progress. Yes.
Awesome. And then the last one, YARP preview, is that still potentially on the plan for next month?
Sorry, what? The YARP? Yeah.
Yeah.
Mike,
So the Service Fabric. Yeah. Sorry. So Service Fabric YARP preview is still on schedule for this month. I know Thanksgiving is next week out here in at least America, but been working with developers on trying to wrap that up as early as this week, but target for the end of this month on that with. So look forward to that.
I will.
That repo going live. And that'll include, I think I shared the document with you, but yeah, that current feature set that we had target for preview is still on the dock. Same.
Exciting. Cool. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. And I'll just throw out before we move on, if anyone wants to know more about Service Fabric YARP or the new, both new reverse proxy options, including traffic 2.5 support, please hit me up either in chat or directly. Let me just put my email in chat. We are looking for more feedback on both of these, so that's it.
This is kind of related. We're upgrading our SF project from .NET 3.1 to .NET 6. We ran into like the binary formatter was disabled for remoting calls to our gateway. One of the recommendations we saw was to like re-enable that with that flag in the CS project file for enable unsafe binary formatter serialization. Is that, how safe or unsafe is that? Like, what are the implications of that? Or are there instructions for how to switch from using binary formatter for Service Fabric remoting?
So I can try and take that one. So are you talking about .NET 5 or 6? Because 6 is not supported just yet.
It was originally introduced with .NET 5.
With .NET 5.
Yeah, exactly. That's why I'm asking. This was an issue for .NET 5, and I do believe it was enabled, if I remember, in 8.1. I might be wrong. I need to go back and look at the release notes. But binary formatter was fixed and released for .NET 5.0. So if your question's for 6, I don't anticipate anything different in 6.0. What is the issue that you're running into?
Basically, like in order to resolve, like when our gateway receives exceptions from a service, it's not able to serialize, and so we've had to enable, like set that flag for enable unsafe binary formatter serialization after upgrading.
Yeah, that was the guidance that was generally provided.
Okay.
And if that works, it should work. But that said, again, .NET 6.0 is not yet supported in Service Fabric. That was the roadmap we were talking about. It's probably going to be available only or supported only after probably the end of the first quarter of 2022. But that said, I'll probably have a better update once we get closer to the timeline. But yeah, that you still need to enable the same flag, correct?
Okay.
I don't know where it is, but if you look at the videos, at least when .NET 5 came out of the community call around there, probably the October, November release, Matt had a really long answer for the kind of background around that.
That's great. Thanks.
Okay. So Tino had a question about, I guess the question would be, would remoting be updated to not use the unsafe formatter? I'm not sure I understand the question.
Yeah, basically we are now setting this CS Proj flag to allow the unsafe formatter. And,
Yeah.
Yeah. And the question would be, is there a plan to update the remoting stack in Service Fabric to not use this unsafe formatter so we can disable the flag again?
Yeah, I don't. So I'm not sure about the answer of that. So I don't anticipate there'll be a change in the flag setting. I think there are scenarios we do want to kind of make binary formatters available. So it is unlikely that we will disable it like permanently, if that's your question.
Actually, the question would be, we have to set this flag because Service Fabric uses the unsafe formatter.
Correct.
If there's
yeah. So
are there any plans to upgrade this
to
part
remove
of
the
Service
flag?
Fabric to not use the unsafe formatter, to use an alternative, so we don't have to.
No.
Okay, yeah, that was the question.
Go. Any other questions?
If not, I have one. I'll just, since it's being recorded, and for folks here, does anyone have a desire to use spot VMs for secondary node types? I'd love to learn if you do have any desires there.
Yes.
Generally, it's for cogs, but we are exploring that, so cool.
Yes, but I mean, it fall into the same kind of cost thing as being able to also use Linux compute.
Okay.
A lot cheaper than Windows.
All right, Mike and we're still here. We'll give it a few more minutes. If anybody has any questions, please feel free to unmute and ask. Otherwise, we can probably try and give some time back.
I guess. Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, well, on topic of Linux, I was curious what the scenarios is and will be supported for mixing various, because I'm thinking about running Linux containers on Windows hosts and perhaps have a Linux node set in the same cluster, or running like a mixed set of Linux and Windows containers in the same cluster.
You're looking for a heterogeneous mixture of Linux and Windows containers within the same.
Yeah, so is that supported or
no?
Something that will
right
be
now you can
in the
either
future?
do Linux containers or Windows containers.
Okay, so you can't even mix like node types with different container variants.
Yeah. So no, we can't. Right now, that's not an option that we can do.
Okay.
But I ask for it every year.
Yeah.
So, Whit, you had unmuted for a second. So, did you have a question as well?
Yes, but I've forgotten it.
That's okay. You can always just send it to us if you remember it later. Any other questions?
Oh no, that was it. Especially for the .NET 6 stuff, is there any chance of any of that being released in like a preview state, especially like the iHost stuff, even if it's not necessarily fully released until April, or is that April timeframe when such a preview might be available?
Yeah, so actually the main reason it is targeted for April timeframe is because we don't have any major releases going out between November and April. April's the first next major release that ships out. So we don't have a platform to release it in. That's primarily the main reason.
Okay, then on the time frame thing, I have another question, because we have a managed cluster set up and we try to upgrade the disks from standard SSD to premium, and apparently we ran into some bug where the resource provider couldn't manage that.
Correct, yeah.
Yeah, is that also for April?
Or can you? What are you asking? Are you asking?
My question is, can we expect to have this upgraded in the near future?
The ability to do an in-place change of the disk type? Is that what you're asking? I would say it's not committed, but I did see your inquiry and your case come in. So we'll see if we can address that before GA. I can't commit to that, but yeah, this is good feedback because I agree we should be able to do that in place fairly safely. Right now, the recommended path, and we'll reply in the case the same way, but the recommended path would be, unfortunately, adding a new node type and then migrating your workload. But I know that's not ideal. Given that is still a lot simpler in SFMC, but yeah, we should be able to do it in place, ideally. I agree.
And that would be possible with the primary nodes that can also be migrated this way in a managed cluster.
We can consider that primary node types a little more difficult. But yeah, another approach you may want to consider if I'm trying to think, and it's struggling to just thinking aloud, multiple managed disks, maybe another approach. You could attach another managed disk, but then let's think about that. Maybe because that's some functionality, maybe we could just leverage internally, right? We can mount another managed disk, migrate your data, and then unmount the old one as a migration technique. Okay. Something we can consider, but yeah, for right now, it'd be new node type with a new disk type, new managed disk type, and then migrate your workload, and then just delete the old node type.
And just since I don't know, what is the time frame for GA now?
Of the current preview, so the 7.1 and 11.1, we're targeting first quarter. So roughly about February, I plan on right now.
Okay.
And if there's some concern of that, please let me know, but that's our rough target. We're good right now.
And I do want to call out one more thing explicitly. I mean, we do talk about some potential roadmap timelines, but these are right now just kind of speculative timelines. If as we get closer to the release timelines, we will have better inputs and details into it. So do continue to join into these calls. If you have any further questions, we should be able to give you an update through these meetings as well.
Yeah, and just in that vein, we do generally skip December. So we'd be touching base next in January, and then hopefully touching on a lot of these timelines like Sukanya is saying, and solidifying these dates.
Thank you, Mike. I was going to bring that up at the end. Appreciate it.
Yeah.
Any other questions? All right, then I think we can give you guys about 3 to 4 minutes back. Thank you again for joining in. As Mike already pointed out, we'll be skipping December. We'll kind of circle back and meet up in January again, and we'll look forward to talking to all of you again. And if you have any questions about roadmap or any other thing in the meanwhile, please feel free to reach out to either Mike or me, and then we can definitely get back to you with whatever updates we have. Thanks again, and Meghala, do you want to kind of wrap up?
Sure, I'll close it out. Thanks everyone again for joining. If you have not already seen in the chat window, there is a link. Please share your feedback to this session, as well as any other topics that you wish to have covered during these sessions. Once again, thank you. The next session will be in January. And with that, have a great rest of the day.
Happy holidays. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
you.
Happy holidays, everyone. Bye-bye.
Thank you.